you mean I don't interview you? You interview me.
Right. I don't jab on Mike.
I understand that.
Unlike Charlie Rose.
Yeah, that's right.
Some people are very aggressive that way.
Okay.
Well, Charlie Rose listen to himself and talk and talk.
I don't think he understands. All right, so
Listen to himself and talk and talk.
I don't think he understands. All right, so Riprap. We're talking about. Tell me your name. How you
Michel.
Michel.
Arnaud.
Arnaud. We're talking to Michel Arnaud on his book on Detroit. The Dream Is Now.
That's right.
And you have a really interesting evolution of this project. Can you tell me about how you started?
Well, it started in 2012. I came here as a tourist with my wife and two friends. And I was interested about Detroit because it's an iconic post-industrial, I mean, it's a post-industrial city moment. And, you know, I saw the destruction and what happened. And I had read in a little article that there were some seeds of something happening. And I thought, well, you know, I'd like to go and see it because the rich history of Detroit and the fact that it's such an important city for the 20th century because of the innovation and the art and everything. And so we came, and I got completely in love with the building downtown, beautiful architecture, extraordinary building, all empty, you know. And then we visited a few things. We saw a pop-up restaurant, which was called Revolver at the time. Then we went to Corktown, we saw Sugar House, and start talking with people, and it was really, the people are lovely. It was really very, very interesting, and I thought, well, you know, maybe there's another story here than just, you know, the ruin of the city.
But your first approach was the destructive.
Well, no, I mean, you followed that. It was impossible to ignore it, but I wasn't really particularly interested in it. I mean, once you've seen one book, you've seen them all, you know. And so that's how it started. So I put together, you know, a little plan for my publisher, with my wife, with a book producer, and you know, the publisher rejected it and said, you know, this is a original story, and we don't really want to carry it as a video. So I said, well, so I came back. We came back, took more pictures, to talk to people, get a more interesting project, and went back to the publisher. They liked the second presentation and said, okay, you do it. And they gave me carte blanche to do whatever I wanted to. So that's really awesome. One photographer living in New York comes, take pictures and then tell a story, and everybody says, so what? They thought, you know, if we really want to have, you know, a narrative which is interesting for the people, you know, Detroiter or not, I think the Detroiter had to have a voice. So that's why, and it was the most difficult thing to sell, was the idea of a. So that's really awesome.
One of the fascinating things as I looked through this book was your photographer's eye, because it was some really extraordinary images. And I wondered how you became involved with Detroit in terms of the photography.
Well, I mean, you know, it's, I don't know, it's, you know, being a photographer, you just take pictures and you go see something, you see a building, or you see some people, or whatever, and you're attracted to, you know, to the moment, and you take the pictures, and you know, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're, but I mean, overall,
some extraordinary images in there.
And so, you know, the idea of the book for me was that I had to have Detroiters' voices in the book, because I thought, you know, it's great, a French photographer comes, French photographer living in New York comes, take pictures and then tell a story, and everybody says, so what? But I thought, you know, if we really want to have, you know, a narrative which is interesting for the people, you know, Detroiter or not, I think the Detroiter had to have a voice. So that's why, and it was the most difficult thing to sell, was the idea of having 4 essays for each chapter to introduce the chapter with the view of somebody who is a specialist or at least has deep root into the subject. And then to have some interview of Detroiter, which we did a lot, and we edited down and everything, just to give a little more, meat to the story, a bit more, so that really the Detroit story is told by Detroiter with my eye. And basically that was the concept. It was difficult to sell at the publisher. That was the most difficult thing, because they felt, they trust a writer, and I didn't want a writer, even a Detroiter writer, because I thought I need to have different point of view, because the diversity of the town and the diversity of the people.
Well, I thought that added to the complexity of the project, because they had all these different points of view, were very distinct and stood out.
Right. Yeah, and that was really the idea of the book. And then, of course, the other idea was I want project like in the design section who goes from the humble house being fixed up by Dai, who is the owner of the coffee shop, and to the most extraordinary building like Linda Dresner did in Birmingham. And I took that because Dresner's connection with Detroit is very strong, especially in the art area with Mocad and DIA, and so I thought it was really relevant to do that.
Well, the range went from the Renaissance Center to the one kitchen, Soul's Kitchen, Soul's Barbecue. And I thought that was really extended and very reflective of your inquiry into what was going on.
Well, Slow was very interesting because it was one of the first who actually, started the Cork Town revival. And so, although, it's not like, it just needed to be mentioned, so that,
I was sitting doing this interview in Shinola, which is its own success story here in Detroit. How did you become involved with the 4 writers who contributed?
Well, I did find them around Matthew Clayson. I went to a talk that he did in New York about Detroit. And I thought, it's very interesting. So when I came here, I got in touch with him, I talked to him, and he was interested. And I thought it would be great because he's he's very technical in certain aspects, so it would be great to do the introduction of it, to show, how this revival is sort of coming out. And then I had a Lynn Crawford, who was one of the founding person for Mocad, which I thought was, and that we met her through Mocad, because we went to Mocad, chat with them, and then they say, if you want something, and Lynn is a writer in her own rights, and I love the piece that she did in the book. And Sarah Cox used to be, Curb Detroit. She started doing Curb Detroit, so she had a big knowledge about what's happening in the real estate market and the design and everything. And then the food was with Jennifer, because she writes a lot about Detroit and the food scene in the New York Times. So I thought there was kind of a nice balance, and everybody was kind of really fixed in their field and would be anchoring the chapters.
And it all kind of came together, which is your genius, I think.
Well, it was just chatting with those people and making them comfortable enough that they trust us. And I just said to them, whatever you want, I will not edit it. I mean, obviously, it's edited a little bit at the publisher. But I said, we just do what you want. And just you have a free range on 1,000 world, whatever. And they love the idea of that.
As a photographer, it's the eye. So I'm wondering, how did you select what the photographs for this book?
I mean, I took lots of pictures. And eventually, it's just trying to construct something a narrative which is sort of solid. And so it's an editing process, really. It's just like, there's some stories I would have liked more pictures, but eventually, you're constrained by the size of the book, and the publishers can't have it any bigger. And they're right in a way. You concentrate your mind.
How many images did you have?
Oh, I don't know, maybe 1,000, 1,500. I don't know. I mean, I didn't count them. I mean, in the book, I think we have over 300 pictures or something like that. I think.
A significant question that came up for me as I read the book was, what was the impact on you as a photographer having done this project? A significant question that came up for me as I read the book was, what was the impact on you as a photographer having done this project?
Together, and it was a labor of love, really, and I don't know, it's like you love the pictures and you're trying to show them at the best, and sometimes it's not necessarily there.
Well, I thought you had a connected narrative because the opening image is the roof that says,
well,
this
actually is that's how I came with the title, because that's the first picture I took in 2012. It's at the back of Michigan Avenue, right? And, just where Slows is, just at the back there. And I came to it, and I just saw the thing, and I took the picture because I thought, wow, the dream is now, and the thing is just like burnt out. Wow. And then of course, at the end of the book, you have the same image, and the dream is still there, but the house is being rebuilt. And today, last week when I was here again, I went there, and now it's a house. The dream is gone, the house is complete, and that's it. And I thought, wow, I wish I had that third image, but it was too late for the book. But this is how it happened. And I said, it's an interesting development of the story, because we start with some kind of a ruin, and we arrive at some kind of a house, complete, where people are going to live and everything.
Well, on this program, we interview authors of academic books. Mm-hmm. And this qualified because underneath all this is your perception of what the project is. And that reveals a lot of reflective thinking and critical thinking about what's going on in Detroit and your reaction to it.
And I think, one of the things, we're trying to be inclusive. I wanted to be inclusive. I wanted to have a strong representation of African American, because there's a big African American community here, and the art section was, in my view, one of the best to bring that in, because it's very vibrant and very exciting. And I don't know what to say there.
It seems to defy the idea of putting everything in neat boxes. Because African American, Puerto Rican, there's a complexity to the whole story, the overlapping, and what people are doing is not in line with necessarily what you would expect.
That's right. But I don't think the book put them into boxes. I think it's flow. It's a free flow. Yeah, which is my idea of doing the book. Is that the concept of the book was there when I started, and I tried to through serendipity and meeting people will get you to somebody else. You talk and you move on to the story, and the story becomes bigger and bigger. And I thought, what a marvelous time for Detroit now. It's really changing. The Fisher Building is reopened. I don't know if you've been there. You should. They've put air conditioning in there, in the entire building. I have an exhibition of photographs, big, large pictures. You might want to take a shot of it. They're like 60 by 150 inches. We did an opening last week there. and there's 18 images in the corridors. He's going to be there for 6 months. And I think everybody is so excited about the book, and it's really give me a warm feeling, and because it took me 3 years to do, and 10 trips, so that's
That's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, and as you know, in publishing, it's not like you make money. You just survive with it. But it was really. I love the stories.
Well, it does reflect your craftsmanship because it's very carefully done and very complex. And I thoroughly enjoyed reading it.
Thank you so much.
And seeing it. It's a scene kind of thing as well as reading.
Right. Yes, of course.
But I'm glad you agreed to this interview because it is in line with what we do, even though it's a little outside of the normal.
That's okay. I mean, anybody who's interested, I'm happy because I think the story has to be told, and I think everybody should share in the hope that things are really going to work out. And it's an optimistic view, and it has to be shared with everybody.
And I think the visual part is what helps people understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's the antithesis of what you've seen before about Detroit. Yeah, of course. And then I picked up, like in the introduction, the first part of the part which is called Always Detroit, image that I personally wanted to show Detroit. They are not necessarily the well-known image, but the image for me which has strong resonance for me. Like I went to the GM Research Center, which took me months to get in there, because it's secret and everything. And I just wanted to take a picture of the 2 staircases which are in there, which are, iconic staircase. And I thought, very few people in Detroit see this because they can't get in there. It's as simple as that. And I thought they need to see it. And it was really exciting to do those things.
Well, it reflects a lot of hard work and long-term work,
Yeah.
which I think is
Yeah, but when you work and it's exciting, it's not like it's work. It's like
not drudgery, but it
yeah, that's what
takes a lot
that's
of
the
effort
that's
to do
what
something that well.
That's right.
Well, thank you for being on.
Okay, well, it was a real pleasure, and I'm honored that you wanted to interview me. Thank you so much. Did you get anything?
Yep.
Okay, good. You see, it's those. It's an amazing staircase. I mean, amazing. And then this one, which is at the design center.
I noticed you had Barry Gordy's old house in there.
Well, and this one, which is a floating staircase. It's a beauty. It's unique. I mean, I think it's unique in the world.
It's engineering marvel.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Anyway, and this is official, so you see the exhibit in those boxes. I was invited by those guys to do it, so. It snowed over 3 years on all my visits. Can you believe this?
Well, the climate is changing.
Well,
The climate is science.
as it's, yeah, it's changing. Well, we have such a, well, I'm not going to say. It was such a depressing president for me.
With Trump?
Yeah. It's like, really,
I
it's
tell my
depressing.
students he's evil. Because that's the only way you can understand him.
I don't know if he's evil, he's just mediocre. He's a
Beyond
mediocre man, He's
Mediocre presumes a certain degree of rationality. He's beyond it.
He's beyond, okay, evil, okay.
Do you know about chaos theory?
Hmm?
Do you know about chaos theory?
Yes, I do.
Well, he's an example of chaos theory.
Yeah.
You can't expect anything.
Yeah, but it's really dangerous because America is, has a big role in the world, and you can't have a loony just, screaming around. Like,
Did you hear what happened in France?
what happened in France?
Last night,
They act the.
big dump of
Hacking.
documents.
Yeah.
Macron was ahead by 63 to whatever.
Yeah, he's going to win, I think.
I hope.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
I
if
hope
he
we don't
doesn't,
read
if he
Le
doesn't,
Pen.
I mean, just like, wow. Well,
Did you hear the story about her father when her sister was running? And
what about Le Pen's father? Yeah, yeah, of course. I
you
mean,
know that guy?
I mean, Le Pen was there for, I mean, since the 50s. He started this movement in the National
I'm
Front.
fascist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There is no doubt about that. And, you know, she's softening the image. But a lot of people, like the people who voted for Detroit, for Trump, you know, are dissatisfied. They live in the country, they don't live in town, they don't have access to more sophisticated.
Pure racism. It's pure racism.
Yeah, sure.
And the reason that people didn't vote is they assumed that Barack Obama had done such a good job everybody would turn out to elect there.
Well, you know, I mean,
So it's collective incompetence.
yeah. I mean, I think
Pay a
Obama
price
was,
for that.
yeah, I think we're lucky to have Obama. But he's changing everything that Obama did. It's a disaster. It's a complete disaster.
But he's an authoritarian.
Yeah, but we only have now, what, 200 days? No, we don't even have 200 days. So, I mean, you know, there's 4 years to go. I mean, Jesus.
It's awful because every day there's something going on.
4 years
Every
of
single
this.
day there's
I
something
tell
going
my
on.
students, I think he's going to be impeached and imprisoned.
Well,
They
that
have
would
to
be
do that.
that would be a positive prospect. I don't know.
I don't think there's any choice. He has to be impeached. He has to be
It's very
jailed.
complicated.
The guy is a complete
They have
idiot.
to first. The Republican have to lose the House if you want him to be impeached, or the Senate, or something.
Well, they just did themselves in with that vote that they took yesterday, so they're done. Republicans win out.
Okay, so to Jim
Dan Karen.
and Karen.
That's me.
Yes, I know. I'm just repeating the names because I tend to make mistakes.
K-A-R-E.
No, I know that. Look out.
Hello, this is Jim Schaefer, executive producer and host of Riprap, the academic book television program. As I've reflected on the recent presidential elections here in the United States, I came to the conclusion that we're in for some terrible times. So I thought I would offer some things to reflect about as we go through this period. I'm not alone in my concern. One of the columnists from the New York Times, Charles M. Blow, who seems to have a real knack for understanding who Donald Trump is, our president-elect. He remarks about how Trump has started this so-called thank you tour in Cincinnati that has turned into kind of a disaster. As Charles Blow notes, Trump is choosing to push America further apart rather than to bring it closer together. He ends his column with, "We are not in an ordinary post-election period of national unity and rapprochement. We're facing the potential abrogation of fundamental American ideals. We stand at the precipice, staring into an abyss that grows darker by the day." So what I did is I pulled together some excellent reflections by different authors that we've had on the program. And as you view those, I'd like to have you keep in mind two books. One is What's Gone Wrong with the Language of Politics by Mark Thompson. And in that he says, there's a crisis of trust in politics across the Western world. Public anger is rising and faith in conventional political leaders and parties is falling. Anti-politics and the anti-politicians have arrived. This book tells the story of how we get from the language of FDR and Churchill to that of Donald Trump. It forensically examines the public language we've been left with, compressed, immediate, sometimes brilliantly impactful, but robbed of most of its explanatory power. It studies the rhetoric of Western leaders from Reagan and Thatcher to Berlusconi, Blair, and today's political elites on both sides of the Atlantic. Talking about the erosion of language by an author uniquely placed to measure its consequences. Another book I'd like to have you reflect on is Hitler, Ascent, 1889-1939, by Volker Ulrich. And this biography of Hitler points out the enormous historical significance of Adolf Hitler, indisputably the most studied, infamous, and reviled person ever to live, which has overshadowed the man behind the public persona. With unprecedented nuance and insight, Volker Ulrich recounts Hitler's personal journey from childhood to his failures as a young man in Vienna, to his service during the First World War, to the missteps and successes in his consolidation of public power. And that's what I want to point at, is that this could be the same route for Donald Trump. And at the end of the book, Ulrich talks about how the readers of the Nazified press were under no illusions about the fact that Hitler's foreign policy star was on the wane and the system was heading toward a Second World War that seems lost right from the start. But they hastened to add that this did not mean that the German people's faith in the Führer was extinguished. On the contrary, it was alive and well in broad swaths of the populace. So I wanted to bring that up about how just because a politician is popular and has apparently broad support doesn't mean that it's a wise course to follow.